Hello, everybody. My name's Grant Ellis, and I'm the dog that plays the piano. No, I am actually the game master here on Grammar of the Dark, which is a Invisible Sun narrative here on uh, the Grimjack 21502 channel. Give me, can get my video playing again. Looks like my background video is stuck there. It's playing now. I spent a great many lengths of time to get this kind of overlay put together, and it looks as though not all my layers are working tonight. But while I troubleshoot this, you are in for a treat, as this is going to be the session in which our narrative begins. But why don't we all introduce ourselves? Thank you for the host, Monty Cook Games. And let's begin with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Tommy, playing Reverend Neil. How you doing tonight, Tommy? Well, a professional streamer would remember to send those buses to the stream. But I assure you, audience, that Tommy was not saying anything of interest. He rarely does.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You should be able to hear him now. Antagonist, adversarial game masters and role-playing games. That's Grant's way. No, you should be able to hear Tommy now. Go ahead and give us a quick recap. Apologize for that, by the way.
Hi, I'm Tommy. I hope you all can hear me because I won't do this a third time. I am, as Grant said, I am praying. Wow, now I can't even talk. Thanks, Grant. This is all your fault. I blame you.
Gotta be ready to go anytime, 24/7. Let's get.
I will be playing Reverend Ex Nailo Nail Feet, otherwise known as Reverend Neil, so everyone can actually pronounce his name. I'm excited to get into the actuality and see everyone's sort of characters played by them. Let's. I think that's all I got for now.
Well, thank you so much, Monty Cook Games, for the subscription, which was gifted by our good friend Maladale. I hope I pronounced that right. Yes, and thank you, Zombie Knight, for the compliment on the overlay. It was a labor of love, and now I've got my lights working in the background. I had moved some files around since the last time we played, and so it should all be working. Also joining us tonight, the lovely Laugh Love Lindy. Check out that cosplay. How you doing tonight, Lindy?
Well, I'm doing super duper spiffy. I am excited to be here, ready to start playing some Invisible Sun. I will be playing the lovely Aromatic Stoneheart Maker, who converses with everything Lobelia. She's just a great gal looking to have an awesome time.
We'll make sure that we live up to our end of the bargain here in the actuality. Also joining us, a good friend of mine in the Master of Disaster, the Ayatollah of Critical Rolla, the man in the cap and the glasses, the great bearded Grimjack 21502. How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing well, buddy. I need you to come. Anytime I walk into a room, I need Grant Ellis to herald my arrival, because if there was, I feel like Apollo Creed. Anyway, so
You made me snort.
right. So I cannot wait to play this game. As I have told everybody on Twitter, This has been the RPG I've been looking forward to for the longest, just because it speaks to a narrative element that is very close to my soul, and just because I wanted to be able to experience this with the viewers on both Twitch and YouTube, I have refrained from delving too deeply into the core material, because I want to take it from pillar to post, learn as we play, and see exactly what it is to dive into the Invisible Sun. And with that being said, I will be playing Robin, an itinerant gallant order of the Goetica who dwells in shadow. And with that, man, I can't wait. Let's play.
Last but not least, that would be me. I am the least of these. A friend of mine, the host of Roll Up and an all-around genius, up later than late. Lucy Girl, played by Charlie. How you doing tonight, Charlie?
I am doing good. I am very excited to be here and finally getting to play our session 1 after session 0, which was such an inspiring session to me, just being told you can do whatever you want. It started out as scary and just became so freeing. As you mentioned, I am playing a character called Lucy Girl, and she is an aromatic empath of the Order of the Weavers who listens to the whispers. And yes, I am very excited to dive back into this, to explore our neighborhoods, and to get to know everyone else's characters. So thank you very much, Grant.
Thank you. Our good friend Nomadic will not be here tonight. He has a doctor's appointment. But everyone who met Gnome at PAX Unplugged was truly blessed. Gnome is an excellent guy. A good friend of mine, has been for a long time. And let's talk a little bit about Invisible Sun is, for those of us that are being introduced to the game, and maybe those of us that haven't and want to know a little more. So Invisible Sun is a game of surrealism, fantasy. It is a game of secrets and an exploration of what it is to be human. The game is built on a variety of precepts, and it is an all-inclusive system purchase that you receive from Monte Cook Games. Each session begins with a playing of a soothing. Hello, everybody. Are you able to see my audio? Also, rather than typing in Zoom chat, you can just tell me that there's no audio, because I have like 9 monitors and the Zoom chat's little and it doesn't always pop up.
Sorry, I just didn't want to interrupt again.
It's allowed. The same as if we were sitting at a table together. So you guys are okay. Okay, so you should be able to hear my audio. Now. Can you hear my audio? You can see my audio and hear the video. I have levels on screen. We're going back to the scene where we know the sound is. So, everybody in audio, give me a thumbs up when you can hear the audio, just to let me know it's there. I see the levels on our side. It's not muted. And alas, this is what happens when you let your overlays sleep for a month. They go into hibernation. They have a hard time. So, we've played a Sooth card. The Sooth card that we have played is the Looming Shade. Essentially what it means is gray magic for the while, magic that involves lying, deception, etc. becomes a little bit stronger, and indigo magic becomes a little weaker. Some of us have spells that identify whether or not our magic belongs to these sort of domains of the sun. So hopefully, cool. Thank you, Zombie Knight, for the thumbs up in chat. So here's how our narrative is going to begin. So in our last session, the group came together. We started identifying what each of the characters did in Shadow. We talked about our houses. We talked about who our neighbors were. We talked about some local problems, as well as we decided as a group how we wanted our narrative to begin. We decided that we wanted this narrative to begin with our Vizsla, our magic users, seeking information. And the information we are seeking is going to be distributed to the party in this way. So each and every one of our party members, our Vizslas, thank you for the follow, Monty Cook Games, they have all been invited to a mansion house. And everyone has been invited to the settling of an estate. The estate that is being settled belonged to the Pharaoh Drella. They were a well-known artist in the community. They were also known as a community leader, even well before the Great and Terrible War began. And they recently have decided to return to the Pale and have entered their infinite sarcophagus and will go onward. However, each member of our party has been invited to the mansion house for this estate to be settled. And what we're going to do now is we're going to determine the order of which each of our party members arrived at this event. And we're going to talk about them a little bit, and we're going to start to introduce our characters to the audience. So I'd like each of you to roll a 10-sided die and let me know who got the highest.
7 for me.
3.
5.
Hat for Greg.
I think that means he wins, right?
5.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go... Lucy Girl will be the first to arrive. So Lucy Girl, go ahead and describe how you look to the audience.
So Lucy arrives and she has her normal bright red rubber Wellington boots on, which you can see just below the hem of her tan-colored rain mac. Over her arm, there is an umbrella that's been hooked. And just peeking out from below the mac where it kind of crosses over her body, there is an absence, a hole, in which hangs a light bulb, which is currently illuminated and emitting a light, warm, almost kind of like a candlelight level of lighting. Her hair is tucked just under her hood, and this is a fairly normal day for her. But she's put on like the good Mac, and is arriving quietly.
And she arrived to the receipt of 1,000 bits. So what we're going to do is we're going to save those. So at any point during the narrative, Lucy Girl and another player of your choice can refresh a stat pool for free. It won't cost an action. It'll just happen. Adios, MCG. Thanks for the bits. So Lucy Girl arrives and she comes to a pair of broad wooden doors. The doors themselves are covered in hands. The hands appear to be manipulating their fingers into different positions, almost as if they're trying to communicate something to Lucy Girl. What does she do?
She will pause and stop and attempt to decipher what is seemingly being communicated to her.
Okay. Apologies. The door to my room went flying open, and I was like, sorry, I'm doing nerd stuff. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is roll a 10-sided die. This is an intellect task. So you have points and pools that you can spend, etc. I'll tell you, and essentially, if you spend a point, it adds to your venture, which is your ability to overcome a task. And you're going up against a challenge. A challenge is anywhere between like 0, which is automatic. You don't need a roll, in something like 17, which would require a lot of magic and a lot of pizzazz to overcome. And of course, we roll 10-sided die. So I'm going to tell you what the challenge is. In order to decipher this, you need to get a 3 or higher. Do you have any spells you'd like to cast, magic you'd like to use, abilities or binny you'd like to spend from your pools? And here's something I'll say about your pools. The game encourages people to spend those points because you get a refresh like 4 times in a day. Nobody wins by not spending points that are in their pools. And that's essentially, you fill your pools by separating your certes and your qualia up amongst either 4. So, do you have any binny you would like to spend, which are points from your pools?
Ooh, that is a good question.
And I'll tell you this much, you'd have at least one, and then we can talk about how that might look as we advance.
Okay, so let's spend 1 because this is entirely new to me.
Okay.
And I'm not sure about the magic front at the moment. I don't have any spells written down.
You're a
but
weaver,
I am
correct?
A weaver, which means I make my own magic.
Yes. So you'd be able to weave the aggregates and create your own magic, and we can start to figure out what those are. Now, spoilers for the audience, my black cube in all my books is at somebody else's house. And they're adorable. Lindy so kindly drove my black cube home from PAX Unplugged. Go ahead and roll a 10-sided die, and we'll add 1 to the total.
That is a 6.
You totally succeed. So you see the hands, and you're able to read. It's a form of sign language, but not a secret language. And the signs say to hand your invitation to the hand labeled Franz, and Franz will show you the way in. If you look, there is one hand, and the word Franz is carved into his palm.
So I reach into my Mac and I pull out the invitation. What form does the invitation take?
So the invitation is a sheet of paper right now. However, if you hand it to Franz, it might not remain in that form.
Okay. So I imagine as a sheet of paper, and being who she is, Lucy's actually gonna fold this up kind of like an origami and turn it into a butterfly and kind of pulse it so the wings flap as they would if it was a mechanical origami, and then release it and blow so that it will fly to Franz's hands.
Yeah, Franz, the hand kind of forms this almost like sock puppet head, and it kind of looks around. The butterfly comes, and then it turns itself over, and it receives the butterfly, and then it closes very, very, very delicately around it, and then it kind of turns to like a little thumb puppet. Thanks. And then goes into the door, and the door opens for you. And then you are invited in the party. There is the visage of a person. They look like they are entirely made out of smoke. And essentially, they're standing there, and they speak out in kind of this deep, low, gravelly, almost like a jazz musician from the early 30s that says, "Wait here in the parlor. We ain't quite ready to settle the estate." Pardon. Got a little bit of the smoke. And then, there's chairs. There's a place if you have any hats or overcoats you'd like to hang up and make yourself comfortable. And the floor is checkerboard, very tight checkerboard. And you can see beyond the man made out of smoke, there is something like an MC Escher staircase, an impossible staircase to go up. And he says, "Yeah, it's doing that right now. Hasn't quite figured out how it feels today."
I can understand that. And she'll pull down her hood, and she's gonna just kind of stamp. And is there like a mat, like a welcome mat? Kind of
No, unfortunately. There
she
is.
will tread very carefully across one of the seats and sit, hoping not to trail water through the entranceway.
As you sit down in the chair like yawns. Ugh.
Oh, pardon me.
Uh,
Do you mind if I sit?
it only had one good one in it, so it kind of like doesn't respond. It only had one good yawn. And with that, we'll go down the line. So, Robin, you are the next to arrive. And as we're getting ready to announce your arrival, we'll explain one of the mechanics of Invisible Sun. That way we can learn as an audience along with the rest of the players. So you have this idea of certes and qualia. Certes being your physical characteristics, qualia being more of your intangible characteristics. And I'm going to explain it the best I can using common language and not necessarily straight mechanical game terms. You have scores in your certes and your qualia, and you just split these up into points amongst the 4 pools: accuracy, physicality, movement, perception, as well as interaction, intellect, sorcery, and sortilege. These pools refresh many times throughout the game, and they allow you to overcome obstacles and challenges. It's not particularly important in this first session that we have those nailed down, but as we progress through the campaign, we'll probably pay more attention, because unlike my Dungeons and Dragons campaigns, I don't come right out of the bat trying to kill you in Invisible Sun. You players do that to yourselves. So yes, the chair kind of accepts. Oh, Invisible Sun gets scary. It's all player driven. Robin, you are next to arrive. Go ahead and describe how your character looks, what your mood is. And I'd also like you to establish a bond and relationship to the Pharaoh Drella. Why Robin would have been invited.
Well, Robin bears, if such a thing is even a term, a normalcy to his attire. While he has no home that he calls his own for any length or period of time, he does bear a look of a collegiate professor. He has a very rough tweed suit on. It is frayed, it is worn. The patches on the elbows have a shine to them that a better cared for suit would not. But this is what he can put together for this occasion. And as he walks into the area, he could walk easily in the real world, except for when he raises his eyebrows or squints at the sun or smiles. And as he does so, the wrinkles and lines that form in his face do not bear the same stress of flesh and age as one might be accustomed to, but instead they bear the calligraphy and scrawl of poems by William Butler Yeats. And so as he walks through and he looks around and lifts his eyebrows, on his forehead it reads, "Come away, human child." And as he steps forward and looks around, his relationship to this particular session for the Pharaoh Drella is he was chosen by the group from which he belongs to represent them with the invitation. His community that he lives in, they needed someone to go. Robin was chosen.
And with that, the Pharaoh Drella's door was expecting you, and it, fronds the hand, kind of makes like a respect knuckles. He wants you to, kind of give him the respect knuckles. Do you?
Yes. When he closes his hand and the thin flesh crinkles a bit, you can read "What rough beast" as he touches.
And he kind of slinks in, and the door opens. And Robin is invited in, and Robin sees Lucy Girl sitting on a chair. Did we establish bonds between your characters that you recall? So I have the book open.
I don't believe Lucy and Robin share a bond. I
No
believe I
bond.
share one with Reverend Neil and Kibo.
Okay. And Yeah, that works out great. You have heard of each other through reputation, and I want to know from Lucy Girl, is it, have you heard good things, bad things, or multiple things?
I think I have heard multiple things about Robin. I think there have been some bad things I have heard, which are in regards to the community in which he lives. And I think I've heard good things of him personally, or sorry, is it him or them or
He,
Yep,
him.
what's your pronouns? Yeah.
perfect? I think I've heard good things of him, that he represents a strong leadership and a fair one.
And Robin, you in turn, are you familiar with Lucy Girl at all, or is this your first meeting?
This would be the first meeting, but he probably would be able to glean her identity simply because while she, her, correct? For Lucy Girl. While she has connections with Kibo and Neil, so does Robin. And so this is the absolute textbook definition of a friend of a friend. It's just maybe they haven't partied together yet.
I think that's fair.
Ain't no party like a Vizsla party, because a Vizsla party don't stop. Right,
Until
so
someone turns to smoke, right?
so as Robin comes in, old Smokey himself says, "Robin, they sent you?" He says kind of inquisitively, almost judgmentally, wondering why you are the first to arrive representing your people.
They did, my friend. Perhaps they chose poorly. Perhaps they chose wisely. I think we'll see before the end of the night.
That's for sure. The Pharaoh holds grudges for a long time. Now, I'd like you to establish in the fiction why the Pharaoh Drella might have a grudge against you. And it can be lighthearted, it can be serious, it can be somewhere in between. I'm going to give you the liberty, and you don't have to reveal that to any of the players right now, or you can just sort of off the cuff reveal why the Pharaoh Drella. And it can be Lando Han Solo-ish, or it can be belongs in a museum-ish. Pick a Harrison Ford character and steal that trope. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, well then I'll pick Air Force One, Get Off My Plane. As the people that he represents had been kicked off of land and realms held by the Pharaoh Drella several times. And in those relationships and interactions, it became almost a game of, like a shell game or lighthearted cat and mouse, where they'd be chased off of this particular area only to reappear at the other end of the holdings a week later. And it was lighthearted and never aggressive, but it was constant.
I dig it. The next to arrive is actually Reverend Neil. Lobelia will be the last to arrive. She's the new girl, after all. Neil, go ahead and describe your entrance.
So Neil, to sort of describe him, is he is wearing a cassock, a black cassock, sort of holding a book in one arm. He strides confidently, but looking at him, it looks like he hasn't slept in a couple days. Like, his hair is in that sort of do where it's like it was done at some point, like in the last 3 or 4 days, but he just hasn't done anything with it since then. He's got, dark bags under his eyes. He's fairly pale. But he's confident in his stride as he approaches.
All right. The door. You come to the door. It's a large wooden door. There's no knobs. It's covered in hands. How do you respond to this? You do have an invitation.
So how do I respond to the hands?
Yeah, how would Reverend Neil? So you come to the large wooden door. It's covered in various hands. Their fingers are in different positions. There is one labeled Franz.
I think that Reverend Neil would walk up, and I think he'd grasp one of the hands between his two hands, sort of like this, and that very like I understand sort of hand grasp. And I think that he says a prayer over the hand.
The hand, you can feel sort of prays along with you, and it gives you a secret I won't reveal right now, but you gain a point of hidden knowledge, and it reveals a truth to you that only Reverend Neil will know at this point. And with that, that hand signals to Franz to open the door, and it does so. The wooden doors open, and you can see Robin, who you are somewhat familiar with, as well as Lucy Girl.
I am familiar with both of them. Actually pretty good. I think Reverend Neil's actually pretty good friends with both of them. He's like close friends with Robin. And then he and Lucy Girl have had some good talks.
Deep talks.
And I think Reverend Neil will approach Robin first. And, oh God, I gotta get into my voice here. Robin, God, I can't. Hold on one sec.
No, it's okay. While you're finding your voice, the chair kind of yawns back to Lucy Girl. Goes, snubbed you. Go on, continue.
Robin, my dear friend, how are you doing today?
Reverend, it's good to see you this evening.
It is good to see you as well. I did not expect to see you here.
I did not expect to be seen, but it appears a vote was cast. My name, whether it is rightly chosen or wrongly accused, left the ballot, and here I am.
Well, I believe that our work shall be all the more better for you being here today. I'm glad to see a good face here.
With that, Robin would smile a bit, unsure as to whether or not that was genuine or a bit of humor in it. Either way, he took it positively as he smiles at the Reverend.
So you say, my friend.
Indeed. And I think Reverend Neil would approach Lucy Girl, like, Lucy, my child, it's also very good to see you here today.
Seems like you've mastered the path of luck, Reverend.
Yes. Well, do any of you know what we are here for?
It's a mystery. Perhaps we will learn of it. Perhaps we won't.
And at this point, Robin would...
Sorry, Smokey. With Smokey here, so he'd be like, "What did your invitation say, you dummy?" Sorry. He wouldn't be able to contain himself. Yeah.
I mean, but no, wait. The invitations were nebulous, though, weren't they? They were just show up, and there's going to be some type of reading. Right?
No, every party member knew when I announced in the intro it would be common knowledge you're invited to the settling of an estate.
Settling of the estate, right? Like
yes,
a reading of a will.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? What are we doing?
Okay,
Right,
why you?
No,
I get it.
I mean,
Like,
no, I
what
get
are we
that
doing?
filming that. What I'm saying is, there's no reason for Robin or any of his people to be here. So,
No, none at all. Especially
I
not
think-
Robin.
Yeah, I think Reverend Neil thinks it's sort of like, I guess that I am here as sort of a religious figure, in a sense, but this is a very strange place for that to be a custom. And And
That's right.
I have a small church. I mean, I will be grateful for the opportunity to look over one so great, but
What is it they say, Reverend? Faith as small as a mustard seed.
yes, yes, indeed.
Shadow saying, says Smokey.
It may, it may be shadow saying, but there are some things that we can learn from the shadow.
Smokey gets ready to retort, but then starts hacking up what could only be a lung. Sorry. Wrong pipe.
Where's a strong wind when you need it?
Listen here. Everyone gangs up, and another one of Grant's NPCs is destroyed. Quick, get a large fan. Oh, out he goes.
I think I go to Smokey, and I if he allows, if they allow me, I grip their hand in between mine. I say,
Slips through your fingers, but you try your best.
yeah, I do what I can. Say, my child, believe in the invisible sun, and they shall take care of all your needs, whatever they may be.
Smokey kind of leans in solemnly and goes, "Fuck you, motherfucker," and then kind of whisked right through you. I'm sorry. It felt right in the moment. And like, yeah, he just goes up through your nostrils and out your mouth. And like, it's just like, and he kind of shakes it. After that awkwardness, and the thing is, it causes no damage. There's no extra effect. But as Smokey passed through Reverend Neil, he also spoke an apology and also said he knows that the door passed a secret to you, and for you to guard that secret, it's of the utmost importance. There are going to be people that look for that, and he's being standoffish as to not draw any attention to the Reverend Neil. So, with that, the last guest has been invited. And Smokey says, Lobelia ain't here yet, and she's the last one. And as he says that, every other member of the party has heard the name Lobelia, and you have heard rumors of the new girl in town recently returned from Shadow, but none of you have seen her or met her yet. We're going to decide that is canonical, and I want each of you to name, as a player, not a character, a rumor you have heard of Lobelia, and then Lindy can decide if any of these are true or not about her character. So let's start with Lucy Girl.
I heard that when she returned to the Shadow Realm, it was via the blooming of a giant flower. It had been growing in the park for several weeks and become monstrous, the size of some small houses, and it opened one petal at a time until eventually there in the center stood Lobelia, and she just opened her eyes and walked straight out with a purpose.
And what has Robin heard?
Well, as is the way with a group such as his that doesn't have a permanent roof over their heads, it is oftentimes a way to keep both the young and the old and the impulsive in line, is to create a specter. And the specter that has been created recently is Lobelia, as she is said and told to those that would believe such things. She was born of a doll that had drunk from the tears of an orphan child. It enjoyed the sadness, and it looks for more. And that keeps everyone where they need to be.
What has Reverend Neil heard?
Reverend Neil has heard that Lobelia has a secret invisible pet, and that no one has seen this pet, yet they have felt their presence. And that those perhaps who have wronged Lobelia have suffered. No one's quite confirmed what exactly that sufferance is, but there are people who believe that she has this secret, invisible sort of guardian pet.
And with that, Lobelia, describe your arrival to the manor house, how your character appears, and then also how you handle the door.
All right. Well, Lobelia, she walks up. She's very primly and properly dressed. She's got nice little blouse, lots of lace, ruffles, many petticoats. Her skirt poofs out a good bit and swishes when she walks. She's got cute little white Mary Jane's shoes, immaculate tights, not a single run or snag in them. That's difficult. Very well done up face. Very almost doll-like in appearance. She has her hair up into two perfectly curled pigtails, and she carries with her a small white purse. She will just kind of primly walk up the steps, and she'll see the door is made out of hands, and the first thing she'll do is she'll wave to it.
Every hand on the door waves in response.
And then I'll look for maybe the most enthusiastic hand, and I'll offer my invitation towards it.
The most enthusiastic hand passes it up to Franz. Franz gobbles up the invitation, swallows it whole, and then the door opens. And with that, you can see a group of individuals gathered. My question for you, Lobelia, is have you seen any of these individuals before, or is it your first time?
I'd like to think it's her first time. She doesn't get out of her house often, and so she hasn't really gotten a chance to meet many of the neighbors.
Okay. And what's every other player's attitude as you see this mysterious visitor and guest to the manor house?
So Lucy has just finished this conversation with Reverend Neil and Smokey, and she appears thoughtful, perhaps a little disturbed by the exchange. But as Lobelia enters, she kind of turns her head and puts a smile on her face. It's warm and friendly, but her eyes kind of drop and move away, so she's not staring at the newcomer.
I think Reverend Neil immediately goes up and introduces himself to the newcomer. It's like, "Oh, welcome there, my child. I'm Reverend X Nailo Nail Fit. You can just call me Reverend Neil. And may I have the pleasure of knowing your name? I have not seen your face around here before."
Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Lobelia.
Ah, our new child from the shadow, come fresh from the shadow in our neighborhood. Well, I am Reverend Neil. Should you need anything, fear not and come and ask me right away.
Your offer of assistance is greatly appreciated.
These are my friends, other members of our neighborhood. That over there, the gentleman in the hat, is my good friend Robin.
Robin would be a safe distance away from Neil, expecting him to be torn apart at any moment. So he is probably a foot or two or a step or two outside of the splash zone that he is expecting to instead.
And the one over there with the light there is another one of my good acquaintances and friends, Lucy girl.
And Lucy is actually already curiously looking back up, and she realizes she's caught. Is it morning, afternoon, Grant?
It is early evening.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening. Did you all get invitations as well?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We were just wondering, why us?
Why not?
I'm waiting for y'all to converse about the weather, the state of the road, says Smokey. Sorry, small talk. Oh, they's a coming. And then doors on either side of the room kind of lift up, and 4 individuals, 2 on either side, that are all identical. They are well dressed. They are all wearing blue tight jackets, black bow ties, and all of their pants are a sharp silver color. And they sort of glide out, and then they form a line, and they're like, "Dinner's ready, dinner's ready, dinner's ready, dinner's ready." They all kind of say down the line, and then one's like, "Ha! I won. I was first." And the other 3 look dejected.
As Smokey had said about talking about the weather and the roads, and then goes small talk. Just as he's finished saying that, and his attention's distracted, I turn to Reverend Neil and I say, "Shadow talk," and I stand up from my seat and I kind of dust down where I've sat to smooth any wrinkles, and straighten my jacket.
Reverend Neil will sort of go like, "Well, I guess dinner is ready." I turn to all the ones that were shouting about being first and whatnot, and I say, "Do not worry so much about being first, second, or third, but merely that you have made the effort on the journey and reached the destination."
3 of them all say in unison, "But if we're not first, we're losers, losers, losers." And then they like first, and then the other 2 are dejected. The one who was first originally made sure not to open his mouth. He doesn't want to lose his spot. And they kind of motion. Yeah. They're like, "After you all, after you all, after you all."
Reverend Neil will say, "Well, after all of you."
We'll be able to give a little curtsy, and she'll just walk right on.
As Lobelia passes, Robin will maintain his bubble of what he believes to be, the attack radius, and so as she goes by, he's and so perhaps he too believes the tales, but then he will follow.
Reaches into the hole in her chest, and she turns the light bulb once and pulls her fingers out, and the tips glow, and she writes in the air behind her, "But what is it you lose?" ? And then just follows after everyone.
And Neil will bring up the rear.
Okay. And you are followed by Bronson, Bravish, Bastion, and Batali, the 4 identical twins, servants of the Pharaoh Drella. So you enter a large room. The chairs in here are like oversized rocking chairs. So if you've ever been to a Cracker Barrel in the United States, they're in the front. They're kind of comical and ridiculous. The table itself is something of an inverted octopus, and there's tentacles reaching underneath. And they're just flapping all over like plates and things like that from underneath the table. Just tentacle arms. And they're trying to make sure everything is set. This room is lit by candles. On each candle, the flames appear to look like tiny little frogs that kind of leap up and down. And there are piano keys surrounding the table, kind of floating in midair. Closer examination reveals they appear as if they've been made out of bone. And they are sort of playing haunting little themes. There's melodies, and inside these melodies, there appear to be memories. Do you all sit down, or do you stand at attention? Bravish, Bronson, Bastion, and Batali all say after you, and you can see they have little seats, and each of them has a seat near each of you, almost as if you'll have your own little servant over the course of dinner, should you need any assistance.
Robin will take the seat with the identical twin that was last, because he feels that if this one continues to react fourth in line, if there is some type of scuffle or massacre from Lobelia, this one will make a more appropriate meat shield, as it doesn't react as quickly as the others.
Whereas Lobelia definitely sits in the chair that had the winner. Whether that's Bronson, Bravish, Bastion, or Batali remains to be seen, but she picks the one that won.
Does Robin also sit the furthest away from Lobelia?
Vitaly
Oh,
was
it's an
first.
octopus, so I'm not real sure. How you
It's circular, so there's plenty of
Am I-
seats. There's about 12 seats at the table. You could create some distance.
Oh, created he shall then.
Yes.
I think
Okay.
I think Rev Neil finds like a happy medium between the two and sits there.
All right. I'm going to play another Soothe card as you all come in here. And it appears that my audio is still working. I apologize should that scene not be working. So magic's going to change. Wow, more pale magic advances. So this is dead magic as opposed to gray. So I have played the Ghostly Presence. This card means the past, guilt, unresolved issues. Magic that involves death becomes slightly stronger in here. The music on the keys seems to bring back the echo of a memory, a shadow of doubt, a time in your life when you were unsure of yourself. And as we come back to our dinner party, I'd like each character to sort of reveal a time when their character was less sure about themselves and maybe a decision they made. It doesn't have to be anything major, but it should have some sort of substance. So what we'll do is we'll start with Reverend Neil, then we'll Lobelia, Robin, then Lucy Girl.
And this can be from the shadow or before.
It could be from Shadow.
Okay. Well, I mean that just describes his whole shadow life. I mean that the whole bit of his shadow life is just him being unsure of himself. But I think probably what resonates the strongest with this is that there was a moment in the shadow where he was this close to being clean for a long period of time, and then just there was that person that came back into his life and was like, come on, just one more time. And I think that once again Neil gave in to temptation, and I think that set off just a bad chain of events going on further into his addiction.
What about Lobelia?
I think for her, it would be when she was operating on somebody. She was a surgeon in the shadow, and there was some medical complications came up, and she had to make a call that could affect the patient's life for some time to come, and she's not sure if she made the right call, but she did save like the patient's life. They did survive the ordeal, but she's not sure if she made the right call in the moment on the operating table.
And Robin?
Robin's regret would be that he never tried to leave his group, his orchestra, if you will, to find his biological parents. He tells himself he doesn't need them, but he simply does not have the courage.
And Lucy Girl.
Hearing this music, it reminds her of a moment when she'd been stood in the theatre that she'd worked in, and the orchestra had actually been warming up in the larger space, and she'd been stood in front of a notice board, and on the notice board there was a sign that said auditions, and it had a list of various roles, and there'd been the little bits of paper that you pull off that had the phone number on to arrange taking part, and she'd been about to take one when someone had called for her to go and do her job, and she went and she did her job, and she regretted not taking that bit of paper because when she returned, they were all gone, And she never followed up. She never tried to find another piece of paper or to find a way in. She just felt like the moment had gone.
And the moment does pass. Now the shadow seems to sort of dance on the wall. The food that's served is mediocre at best. There's bowls of soup, and they appear to be very plain dishes. The flavors don't sort of cause any great experience or feeling that you're accustomed to here in the actuality. Here in Indigo, it is almost that this is a plain and somber dish, and Bravish and Bastion and Batali and Bronson kind of explain that this is a traditional dish of mourning that the Pharaoh Drella had requested be served at the time of their passing. But as each of you pondered your doubt, each of you are going to receive a incantation. So in this game, similar to Cipher System, it has this idea of single-use spells or objects. An incantation is it's a spell like magical ability that you gain through meditation. Typically, they're handed out on cards if we were playing physically in person. But the first incantation goes to Neil. Neil, you're going to receive an incantation called Black Candles Give the Same Light. I'm going to place it in our Zoom chat where you can see the details of it. But essentially, in an area, you can create illusory, essentially illusions of objects or creatures in whatever number you wish. And they have to be no larger than 2 feet by 2 feet, and they're full sensory images that move and act as you wish. And over time, we're going to check each round to see if they ever disappear. But you gain access to the single-use spell that you can use one time in the game to solve a potential problem. Robin, you gain the incantation Born to Trouble. And it says, with a sneer and a clenched fist, you can add 3 Benny to your accuracy pool. So it's going to shoot up your pools very large for a short time. And, it's just a single-use spell. Lucy Girl, you get Consummation of the Heart. A non-magical object in a close painting or photograph becomes real and permanent and appears in your hand. And it must be a size and a weight that you can hold. So I'm going to paste that into our private chat. And then lastly, Lobelia, you gain the Fires of Nostalgia Burn Bright. So while touching your shadow memento, that object that came with you from the shadow, some people it might be a newspaper, a photograph, or surgical instruments, you gain +1 to any action that you are participating in, and it lasts until the next sun sets. So each of you kind of throughout dinner while you're having this meditation, you kind of gain this game mechanic where you have learned an incantation, which is a single-use spell that you'll use one time in the game, and then it'll be gone when it depletes. After the meal is served, is there any conversation that takes place at dinner? You can converse with the servants or each other.
Reverend Neil certainly tries to make conversation. Really easy once you slip into that sort of southern accent going there. It's hard to come out. Reverend Neil, I think, certainly makes conversation. He certainly asks about how his friends are doing, how life has been for Robin and Lucy Girl, and I think that he certainly tries to get to know Lobelia a little bit, get to know this new child that the Invisible Sun has brought him here.
Ask her if she's been saved yet.
Have you been saved by our light and savior, the Invisible Sun? Knock, knock, knock. No, he doesn't say that. He doesn't say that. So
I was going to say Robin raises his plate to shield him from the explosion of gore.
But no, I think he certainly was like, so, Lobelia, how are you liking it here back in the actuality? I trust your house is doing all right. Your neighbors are pleasant.
It's taken some adjusting to get used to, but I am enjoying it thus far. My house is quite lovely. I enjoy staying inside of it most of the time, but I do get out occasionally for supplies and materials.
And you are finding everything you need okay?
Thus far, certainly there is always room for improvement, and I'm sure I'll need some rarer crafting materials eventually, but I am making do for the current time.
Good.
What is it you're making? If you don't mind me asking.
Well, mostly I make toys.
Like Bravish, Bronson, Bastion, and they all kind of turn their heads.
Well, is there anything in particular that you make?
Well, I specialize in dolls, particularly. I have a masterpiece that I'm currently working on, but it's not ready to be shown yet.
Well, I would love to drop by sometime and see these wonderful creations that you have made, if that would be all right with you.
That sounds perfectly amenable, Father. Or Reverend Neil.
Yeah.
At the mention of dolls, Robin stops eating the not good food that he had been trying to eat, puts down his preferred implement, whether it be a spoon or a fork. He puts it down, pushes back, and realizes, in his mind at least, everything he's heard is 100% true.
Lucy is gonna try and continue the engagement. And what sort of items that you need to finish your masterpiece? Perhaps we could help.
I'm still trying to figure that out myself. Crafting here is quite unusual at times. I'm fairly certain I will need a soul, though. Oh, and definitely a heart.
Bravish, Bronson, and Bastion, they kind of start all kind of scooting a little closer to Robin and like look to Robin for like, what do we do? What do we do?
See?
When it goes down, we've all got to hang together.
As a soul? What kind of soul?
I'm not certain yet. I'm sure the idea will dawn on me in due time. I'm currently working on construction of the main body, though, first.
A vessel to keep a soul in?
A living doll, if you will.
But for what reason?
There's lots of reasons.
I see.
For the
Lucy
first time-
regrets asking.
Yeah. Right, I was going to say, for the first time in the conversation, he can't help himself. It's almost like talking in the theater of a horror movie. Robin says, no, there's no good reason. None. What's up? None at all. No reason to eat. What?
The door opens. A tall figure appears. The octopus stops moving altogether, and Bravish, Bastion, Batali, and Bronson all seem to shrink a little in their chairs. The tall individual comes out and he says, "You may join me for the reading of the estate and to collect what is owed to you each." Kind of tucks a pocket watch in his jacket. And then he exits. And they kind of whisper to, Batali, who was first, whispers to Lobelia, "We should go. We don't want to keep that guy waiting."
Certainly. She'll just scoot out. She's ready to go.
I was not aware that I was owed anything, but I'm as interested as the rest of you. the rest of y'all. It feels right. The rest of y'all to find out what it is we have all been exactly brought here for.
As Lucy Girl was the only one to express some form of, I don't know, similar opinion to Robin, he will simply, as soon as Frankenstein has walked, he will just
Frankenstein.
right.
Thank you.
He will just look at Lucy Girl, and even when I'm assuming Bronson is his guy that comes last, even when Bronson finally gets enough gumption to realize, he's fourth place all the time for a reason, he'll put a hand on his shoulder just to, no,
Just wait one more second. Just a little bit more space.
and then he will trail in, hopefully kind of pulling Lucy Girl into his orbit as they keep as many of these twins in between them and
I think
death.
in this moment, seeing kind of Robin's body language and response, Lucy all but holds his arm. Just
yeah, they're like together.
touching.
I think another thing that Robin and Lucy, with their concern and like alarms going off, would notice that unless she's being interacted with, she's just like deadpan face. So it's kind of like on off like a mask.
So
If it's
Lucy
okay
and
with-
Robin, I was gonna say Lucy Girl and Robin are like Hansel and Gretel right now. Just,
Yeah. If it's okay with you, Greg, like she'll just like take Robin's arm, just instinctually.
He's shaking. He's visibly
Reverend has none of these concerns. Reverend let Lobelia go in, looks at the two of you, and walks in after them.
Under her breath, Lucy comments to Robin, I couldn't imagine being trapped in a doll. Could you?
Hang with this one much longer. Perhaps we will experience it firsthand.
What do you mean? Have you
I
heard
mean
something?
exactly what I've said. Did you hear what she was looking for? Just needs a soul. Are you using yours right now?
I think so. Fisley make all sorts of strange claims of things they can make, but
And yet this freaks me out.
Bronson and Bravish's little heads poking from either side. They're like, she's gonna kill us! And, like, that's what they say. And, like, they're, like, quivering. And, like, they're shaking. And they live here in this creepy murder house. Yet now they're like, this is how it ends. This is how it
Well,
ends.
Robin would look at both of them and look at them and almost point like the collegiate professor he's dressed as, and he would say,
That is why you are never first. That one will be the one that dies.
and he points to Mr. Over.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Well,
one
the
that's
next
like
thing-
practically arm in arm with her is like, I think it's really brave of you to want to get souls, and I think it's great to take a soul and to put a soul in a doll. What kind of soul would you be looking for? Please swipe right if no, never mind. Oh, Batali. Bravish and Bronson are in the back. Bastion and Batali are in the front. Yeah. Meanwhile, Bastion's like, tell me more of the invisible sun, Reverend Neil. They are all genuinely interested in each and every one of you. With that, you enter a room. This room is black as the void. There is a floating table in the center that appears to be made out of pure gold, solid. There are strange scripts carved into its side, unlike any you've ever seen. There are 4 objects on the table. As executor of the estate, I, Alvin C. Chamberlain, will see to it that these 4 objects are given to you. The first, to you. And he points at Reverend Neil, and then he points at a pen. It's a beautiful fountain pen on the table. And this is mechanically known as an ephemera object. So it's, again, another fleeting object, but instead of being a spell, it's a physical device. And this particular pin happens to make a single red mark. And when you use this pin, it will cause your face and your head to take the appearance of an animal of your choosing until the next sun rises. This is left to you by the Pharaoh Drella. They wanted you to have it.
Well, I am thankful for the gifts that they have left me, and I shall use them wisely.
And to you, he looks at Lucy Girl. There's a small collection of cosmetics. This is the cosmetic allurement ephemera object. If you take 10 minutes to apply these cosmetics, you get +5 Benny to your interaction pool. So you apply it, and it will extra beautify you. So that is the cosmetic allurement, and you now have access to that.
Lucy takes it kind of silently and kind of takes in what it is, but makes no fuss about receipt. Just kind of quiet, just like, not sure why I got this. But...
The chamberman then says, one item has been left to you, Robin. He knows your name. And a second item has been given to you as well. Now, there are only 4 objects on the table. So he pulls up a small napkin and hands it to you. You can feel something very small inside. There is a single green pill. This is known as the Defending Arms. If you eat this pill, you'll grow a mass of tendrils from your torso that will wave off attackers, deflect attacks, and it essentially, you get all Cthulhu up in there for a little while.
I'm listening.
The second is an object that you should be familiar with if you knew your father as well as I did. And he says it just like that, and he hands you a black medallion. This is a black medallion with a very sharp and brilliant star on it, known as the Black Star. And if someone nearby you dies, you can choose to die in their stead. Whatever wound or illness would have killed them, it will kill you instead, and they will remain entirely hale and well-being. With that, the chamberman sort of snubs Lobelia for a second. What is everyone's mood in response to this?
Lucy is curious as to the items that were given to Robin and Reverend Neil, but she remains quiet and observant.
Now, I can see why you have brought the 3 of us here, as we have been bequeathed something upon the will of the Pharaoh, who I can honestly say that I did not know that well, I would say. But are you forgetting about Miss Lobelia over here?
My good Reverend, I do not forget. He pulls out a key from his jacket pocket. And to you, the key to the Hall of Memories. The Pharaoh had been collecting them, secrets, memories, thoughts, private things, from everyone here in Fartown. And he has left this key to you. There is a room that contains all of these things. It is yours now.
How gracious of him. Thank you.
He kind of gives a glance to Robin. And I think your sentiment is identical, but he doesn't speak.
So to recap, You just gave the Soul Collector access to all of the memories of everybody in the area, in town.
The chamberman pulls out a small cigarette case and kind of offers if anyone would like a smoke. And I'm gonna recap in character. He goes precisely as he sort of lights up, and little demonic script starts to go away, and he's kind of liberally handing out these cigarettes. In fact, he probably has handed out like 4 or 5 to each of you. He goes, the Pharaoh Drella knew they would return to the Pale recently, and at the time of their passing, they revealed to us that they, in fact, have been collecting every secret, every private thought, every memory from every citizen of Fartown. They have been storing them, preparing to sell. And when the time came to pass off this great collection, she was named
The question is, Dave, why?
How well did you know him? I'm merely an executor of the estate. I haven't talked to the Pharaoh in years, not since before the war. I've had my own problems to deal with.
Now, I may be mistaken, but am I right to assume that the Pharaoh has been behind all the ears that have been popping up around our neighborhood, seemingly listening to all of our conversations?
Any botanical issues should be taken up with the gardening. He sort of says, kind of like in a double speak.
Well, I would like to bring that up with someone. It has made confession awfully difficult in recent days.
Interesting thing about confession is people have confessed with their hearts, and it's all collected, and she has the key to it.
That is slightly worrisome to me as people, as a person that people give their secrets to with the understanding that I won't tell anyone. You can see where this might make me a little uncomfortable.
Quite. Especially since, well, it's no secret that the Pharaoh Drella passed, and there's been rumors about what they've been collecting for a very long time. In so much that you hear something in the distance, kind of a loud thud. Thud. No doubt, people knew of tonight's reading. People knew the estate was going to be settled. They're coming. Most likely for her.
Well, time to leave, I suppose. Thank you.
Quite. Should you need me, here's my card. And he hands you a card. It simply says, Chamberman, Villain of Fartown. And which is a running gag between all the campaigns. Yeah, and he's just sort of like, quite. And with that, he motions to the door. He shows that you can exit. Bravish, Battaglia, Bronson, and Bastion all step out. Thank you for all those bits tonight.
Did the Pharaoh not leave any further instructions? Any protections?
No, he simply passed off his property.
Is there a back door?
There's only a door. There's many other ways in and out, but you'd have to find them. I have a prior commitment. And he sort of straightens his jacket, and you see he sort of waves his hand over himself, and he's wearing a suit that almost looks like pearl in color, and his vest kind of goes kelpish, and he has little rainbow cufflinks. And he goes, "You'll have to forgive my quick exit. I'm dying on the other side." And he kind of question mark disappears. And you are left alone. You are in a study right now. You hear a loud crash. The front door has been knocked down, clearly, because you can hear Franz screaming in sign language from a distance. He's trying his best. You get the emotion.
It's awful.
Bravish,
Reverend
Bronson,
Neil.
Patel, and Bastion they're kind of looking around panic. What do we do?
Reverend Neil first turns to Lobelia and grasps her hands once again and says, "My child, you have been given a great and dangerous gift, for in your hand you hold the key to many people's hearts.
So
I
I've been
pray that you do not go breaking them."
I don't enjoy breaking things. I much prefer creating and fixing.
Just remember, not everything needs fixing.
Right.
She's got you there, says Batali.
Well, perhaps we could prevent something from being broken. Lucy's looking kind of torn as she looks towards where the door of hands is and towards the back of the room where she's really hoping there is an exit, and to then Lobelia, who carries something that she knows is incredibly powerful.
Bronson says, "Well, we can go into the kitchen, or we can go to the bed chambers, or we could tackle it head on. What would she do?" And he looks at Robin for approval.
Robin steps forward for a moment, and the piano's still there around the octopus. It's just
All the
dim.
keys are floating around. They're still playing Haunting Little Memories.
Okay. He wants to see if there is a memory that he can play, not his own, but a memory of somebody that has been in this room and maybe found another way out, an unknown way out of this room.
Sure, absolutely.
Members.
So make an intellect check, and go ahead and, for the sake of speed play, and we'll go through how your pools work, go ahead and add 1, 2, or 3 to the total.
Yeah, I'll use maximum, whatever the pool you'll allow me to
All
use
right.
for maximum. I will.
Roll a 10-sided die. Tell me what you got.
That is 9 plus 3 is 12.
And then, like, Mike TV's mom goes, Rachmaninoff. And, like, you play a little memory, and you see a beautiful individual. They are lean. They're not particularly tall, but they're wearing an elaborate headdress, and they move with kind of an otherworldly grace. It is clearly the Pharaoh Drella. And they remove a book from a wall, and it almost like old-timey secret doors turns the wall inside out, and they appear to be escorting a lover of some sort to a private escape. And you see the actual book on the wall.
He goes over and grabs the book, and as he reaches for it, his head crinkles a bit, and it says, "This world is more full of weeping." And then as he smiles when he grabs the book, it says, "Then you can understand," in his wrinkles.
Yes. So the wall begins to turn. Is everyone going to pass through onto the other side? It is an escape.
Yes.
Do you allow your henchmen to come with you, or do you leave them behind? It's your choice entirely.
I will allow at least
Batali?
He hasn't disappointed me yet.
I hope I
think-
don't.
I think Reverend Neil ushers
Don't
everyone
fail.
through before
Okay.
stepping in himself. He's like, "Come now, my children. We must make a exit post haste."
Bronson kind of hangs back, and he's like, "Don't be first. Don't be first." And then, yes, the party is free to pass through. So you are in a long hallway. The hallway seems to go on towards infinity. On the walls on the hallway are what look like shadow devices. They look like old radios, and they seem to be kind of picking up messages, stations that don't quite sound like anything from here in the actuality. There's bits and pieces of phrases. It all sounds like a bit of nonsense, really. But there's just rows and rows of them. There must be hundreds of radios here. What do you do?
Lucy, on passing through that space that opened up, is gonna throw one last glance back as she has guilt in her, enhanced by the haunting memory music, as she considers the fact that we're abandoning the door of hands and other things that may be living here to whatever mob is about to come running through, and the destruction that will bring. And part of her is really fearful about that destruction. But seeing as Reverend Neil is kind of, I imagine, encouraging her through, she'll step through. But there's always a sense of Lucy from that point forward, for now, looking back.
Lobelia, an object catches your eye.
Does it really?
Yes, let me pull it up. Helps if I pull it up in my rat document. Now, your School of Magic, and also for our audience that might be new to the game, so each member of our group belongs to a very specific order of magic, be it the Order of Goetica, which are sort of like summoners, weavers, which are they express magic through feeling, makers, which enchant objects and forge magic into powerful things. Likewise, Vancian magic, which is very mathematical and arithmetic. So these individuals, this particular maker, Lobelia, has a special affinity for objects of power, to the point where she can actually craft them herself should she choose to. And I am going to pull up an object of power for her that belongs to her and her alone. So let me pull it up. So you see a pair of dark red boots. Yes, and they are red as blood, and they have an aura of murder about them. Yes, these are in fact.
Cut out. Hold on. I heard an aura of murder about them, and then it went beedle-doodle-doo. And I just...
That's fine. These are the kindled blood boots. So they are an object of power. They are dark red boots and have an aura of murder. When you wear these boots, you have you get an extra 3 Benny to accuracy and 1 Vex to interaction. So whereas Benny can help you, Vex can hurt you, or rather make things more difficult. And they are just very dangerous looking, sharp red boots. Go ahead and describe to us how you imagine these boots would look to your character and kind of how you find them. They're just sort of off to the side, but your character clearly sees them.
I imagine she's kind of looking at all the objects around her. She's always fascinated by things even from the shadows still. So these radios, these telephones, they're all very enticing to her to a certain extent and exciting. And she's trying to kind of listen to what they're saying. And then the boots kind of stick out to her because they're not transmitting a kind of like a signal of some sort or some type. And she kind of just paused for a second and then look at them, feeling that kind of aura about them. And she'd just run her hands over them and just pick them up, stick them in her purse real quick, and keep going because they gotta move. But as they're walking, she's kind of still just keep looking at the craftsmanship of them and how they were made and kind of that kind of thing. Just getting to know them to a certain extent. She believes that all objects have a personality of some type.
Now, is there another way out of this room?
It's a very long hallway, and you can sort of see as you go down the hallway, on one of the walls there's less radios, and there appears to be a depiction. Lucy instantly recognizes that someone has drawn her apartment building. and it is a detailed, intricate map of the entire building. Lucy, go ahead and describe your apartment and the building that it's in for the audience so they can become familiar, and then I will reveal the secret about it.
Okay, so the apartment building itself is about 6 stories tall, the outside of which appears organic, nearly kind of coral in the way it goes up, and there are balconies for each of the stories. The outside is kind of smoky glass, nearly sea glass in color, in greens and blues and dark grays. And the front door is made of wood, and it's arched with flaking turquoise paint and gold and gilded handles. And it's nearly always open, but very few people tread in. The apartment itself is on the 3rd floor and is relatively small and homely, filled with lights of all different kinds, and the walls occasionally smeared with impressionistic art, thanks to Gary the Snail. And in here, Lucy spends a lot of time painting and creating small magics, working towards a bigger magic.
As you examine this painting of your apartment building, which is clearly more like a work of cartography in purpose, you also see scrawled over it, Eli guards the door. And that's what it says. And there's clearly a spot at the bottom lowest level of your apartment building that is Eli guards the door. And there is a depiction, the silhouette of the same key that was handed to Lobelia at the bottom in front of a door, and this message that says, Eli guards the door. With that, there isn't much more incident to get out of here. The hallway eventually leads to a private bed chamber, and beyond that, a door to go back out into Fartown. So with that, we are going to come out of action mode, Invisible Sun being a game with 3 modes: action mode, narrative mode, and development mode. And I'd like each character to take about a minute to sort of narrate what's next for your character that evening, and sort of what transpires over the next few days. It's a slow-paced game where we're allowed to build. We don't need to rush too drastically, but just sort of narrate a closure for your character, and then we'll go into our character summaries. So let's start with Charlie, then Neil, then Robin, then Lobelia.
So Lucy, I'd like to think, probably has a conversation with Robin before they part ways this evening. And after that, she makes her way back to her apartment with a mind that's just full of troubles, full of regrets and concerns. But I believe that we would have ensured that Lobelia was somewhere safe and somewhere we could find her. And upon entering her apartment, she would be unable to resist investigating the spot that had been depicted on that map, and uttering the words that Eli guards the door, and would probably, if she finds nothing of interest and doesn't draw any attention, would probably take some time to listen to the whispers to see what secrets she could find.
When you listen to the whispers, you hear Eli's voice on the wind. You recognize it immediately. He is, in fact, one of your neighbors. And he says, "Give me a week. It takes long to perform the rituals." And he sort of explains that it's going to be a week before he can show up.
All right.
Eli being a secretary for the Speaker of the Parliament of Liars. And
then she'll just spend the next few days waiting, which is fairly easy to do, I imagine, in the city.
Your
lots of things
footman
going
that was your footman that was waiting on you was Bravish. What do you do with him? Because he's just kind of following you around. He followed you all the way home. I'm yours now.
Oh. Well,
So I'm reassigned.
I have a sofa. And she'll spend the night making up a sofa with these quilted blankets that she has to make sure he's nice and comfortable and has his own space.
Now I'm okay with the floor, and he just like flops unceremoniously, falls in a heap. He's out like light. It's been a big day for him.
Then
Gary
she'll pull
kind
one
of
of the blankets off.
paints over him.
Gary, no. No. My room. Good to know.
Yeah, the trail.
And she'll stroke around the spiral of his shell and then push to encourage him towards her room so he doesn't bother their guest.
Good stuff. And Robin?
Well, Robin, to continue the narrative with Lucy Girl, he would extend an invitation that if at any time she required him, basically their migratory pattern, how his group moves from one place to another and when to find them in a particular haunt. And then he would do the following. As soon as he gets back to his group, he would immediately walk into the area, sweep in a fit of both authority and terror, and tell everyone,
"It's true. She's real. I've seen her. Here's her description. If you see her, run."
And he would just tell everybody about Lobelia. And then I'm assuming that Bronson came with
and
me,
he's
right?
doing like hasty caricature art of her face and everything that he's showing to everyone as you've described it. He's just like,
This is it. And then what he will do is he will accept Bronson into the group that he is with, and he will make Bronson the master of ears. And Bronson's job is, if at any point he sees ears listening, he is to walk up and scream in them until they are gone. And that is his new job with the group. He is simply to scream and cause static interference for the listening ears.
and this you sent Bronson out to do that the first day. He accepted his task bravely, and he was extremely excited, and he pledged to do the best job he could. You never heard from him again, and you never saw him again. And you gain a point of despair from that. And it's true. Oliver and the Artful Dodger, they have all these cool things, but it's quite sad that happened. Now, he may not be dead. It's just you've never seen or heard from him after sending him off on that task. And it's kind of disturbing, too, that it was that sudden. With that, let's go to the Reverend.
First off, Grant, I'm going to tell you that you just made me care for a guy I didn't care for 10 seconds before you started talking. And so that is the sign of a master storyteller. As I could care less about Bronson when I made him the master of ears, and then you told me I never heard from him again? Well, that sucks. On to the next person.
There's 3 more of them. Come here. Can I borrow Bravish for a night? I need a new master of ears.
I also like that you said he was never heard from again. That was nice. It was.
All right, Reverend Neil.
Okay, so Reverend Neil, I think, makes sure that everyone sort of gets home all right, especially checking in on Lobelia, making sure that, because I guess people are going to want that key, and she's got that key. And he's also slightly concerned, and, he's very much dropping hints. It's like, you've got, with great power comes great with great power. With great power comes great responsibility. I do hope that you take good care of that key. But I would prefer that you hold on to it, because then at least I know whose hands it is in. And then I think he'll go back home, and then he will visit Lobelia again, because he did promise her to that he was gonna come see her dolls and whatnot. I'll just be like, oh, this is some mighty fine craftsmanship here. And
Thank you. I take great pride in my work.
he's not phased by any of this.
Yeah,
He's
but
like,
Vitali's trying to like scoot you off though. He's like, she needs her rest.
so who do I have?
Bastion.
Bastion.
Cool.
And Bastion's
Okay,
just the chill one. He's like,
Yeah.
I don't mind
Good.
being second, as he's like helping himself to orders
Yeah.
around the house.
Yeah, Bastion, good. Bastion just sort of follows, and I think I sort of adopt him into my congregation. Certainly, he becomes my
He has a beautiful singing
Altar.
voice, by the
Yes,
way.
he
He
becomes a
loves
choir.
to
He
sing the
becomes like
hymns
a-
for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
He becomes like an altar boy kind of style. Reverend has to go back to his congregation. He does have to take care of his flock. But he does hold off on confessions. He has stopped confessions for a moment because he is worried about the fact that he knows where those secrets are now, and he knows that you can get to them. And so he's worried about that.
And as you began to retire for the final evening before just after service, you've preached to your congregation. As you undress for the night, you find in your undergarments several ears that have affixed themselves to your clothing. You don't know where they came from or how long they've been there, but you know
Don't
that
scream it.
you know whatever happened, someone was listening, intentionally. And that leaves Lobelia.
Hi. So I think the first thing she did upon noticing that Vitali came home with her is, well, first things first, she wants to, she tells him to sit down in a chair until she can take his measurements. First, she'd like to do like a psychometry reading on her murder boots to learn about their past or something about them.
So you know that these boots belonged to the Pharaoh Drella's favorite lover. They were a wonderful couple. Unfortunately, the relationship did not last, for the lover fled into shadow and was not heard from again. You know that the Pharaoh contacted an organization known as Hindasa to attempt to recover them, but was never, ever successful.
Interesting. Okay. Now that she has these murder boots and they're red and she doesn't have anything of the exact same red shade in her wardrobe, she will make an outfit to match her new murder boots, and she will also make Vitali an accompanying outfit so that way he is suitably dressed for no matter whatever she is wearing as well. So he gains a wardrobe, and since she has a large house, he gets a room in the house as well.
He is positively thrilled. You get a point of joy. The point of joy is it's sort of the companionship that Batali provides, and the fact that he is very much like a living doll for you. You get to play dress up. You dress him up like a little organ grinder monkey, the same red as yours, but he doesn't mind, and he's just always there when you need him. You can tell him, sit here. He sits perfectly. Hold this. He holds it. And he is very much in his element helping.
Well, he hasn't disappointed me yet, so that's fantastic all in of itself. So yeah, and it is a little lonely, so she definitely appreciates the companionship. So after she gets the wardrobe situation cleared, as that was a very important and pressing matter, she will then probably just keep working on her master project for the most part, and think about what she wants to look for when she goes into the Hall of Memories, because she assumes, since there's been so many years listening, that there's going to be a lot of information there, and she's going to have to sift for something that she's looking for or interested in. So she's going to kind of start thinking of things she wants to investigate, and she keeps the key close and on her.
And with that, we bring our very first session to a close, and we move into a section of this session known as the character summary, where we as players talk about the changes that our characters went through character growth. We talk about our character arcs, and if we progress down our arc, everyone gets a point of acumen. That's a type of experience we use to learn new spells, etc. But let's talk about our how our characters progress, and if we have a character arc, everyone's going to get a point of acumen for declaring what it is now. For example, we know Lobelia is working on this project, building the coin-operated boy. But let's talk about how our characters have changed from the start of the session to the end. And to go around, we'll do Lucy Girl, Robin, Lobelia, then Reverend Neil.
So Lucy began the session very curious, and as the session progressed, she began to realize curiosity was not always a pleasant experience, as you occasionally find out things that shake you, and her empathic nature made her experiences more difficult as her mind leapt to worst case scenarios and the feelings and experiences that you might go through when you go to these bad places. Her arc is to cleanse. Someone or something has been contaminated by foul magic, and you want to rid them of such influences. This might be a curse, a possession, an infestation, or something else. And in a way, I kind of think the ears are nearly this infestation. They are something that is obtrusive and offensive in that they are collecting secrets and have been doing so on behalf of someone who is clearly storing this information for use. And now, okay, we know Lobelia has the key, but there's, I think, still concerns about having such power, such private things collected in one place, especially in a place like the Actuality where ideas are so valuable.
So you'll gain a point of acumen for sort of beginning this arc, sort of starting down the trek of cleansing this area of Fartown, your neighborhood, from this sort of phantom menace that is collecting all these secrets, memories, thoughts, etc.
So the opening is analyzing the threat. You determine the nature of the contamination. So that seems in line.
Mm-hmm. And we can also we'll have opportunities to sort of expound as we move from narrative mode into development mode. And for the audience, that's right. The game never stops once you start playing Invisible Sun. You can have side scenes, flash fiction, you can send each other text messages, and keep advancing that narrative. All we need is a deck of Soothe cards, which I have as a game master, to play it out. We've had some players have to miss 3 weeks, but when they came back, they hadn't missed any of the narrative at all. Their character was right where they needed to be with the story. And Robin, tell us how you've evolved over the course of the session.
Well, here's my argument. My character arc converses with everything. I don't believe he did that. I believe that he was completely. I believe he was completely thrown by Lobelia showing up, and if anything, he advanced his path of despair in that. Something that he said could be used, some information or some secret could be used against him. That's the Hall of Memories is going to have a ton of his secrets. And, so I don't think that he did anything to advance himself because as soon as you asked us to provide a rumor for Lobelia, my mind just went crazy, and I thought, oh, she's a boogeyman, and I'll just make her, in the mind of the group, and then that kind of derailed what Robin would be able to do. So I don't think he did well. I think whether by my creation or he didn't do what he needed to do this episode, and I was aware of that happening, but
no, the best part about this game. It's not what you need to do. It's just what did you do? And that's why I like it. It's the fiction and the story kind of grows around whatever action you take. So it's kind of like, all right, we now know what he's afraid of.
Right. And I'm apparently afraid of Bronson dying, who I didn't care about a minute and a half ago. But, So there we are. Loved it, man. Loved it.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting us run this game on your channel. And speaking of the boogeyman, Lobelia.
Hi. Oh man, that's super fun. I feel like Lobelia made progress because she's not an extrovert, but she got out there. She met some neighbors. Um, she found one that wasn't afraid of her. The good Reverend Neil. Um, she still doesn't know what to think about the other two. She doesn't also really care that terribly much, but she puts on a nice facade. And she actually is kind of a little fond of Batali. He hasn't disappointed her or her high expectations yet. I feel like she's going to maybe make a friend there. Roommate, interesting. I'm really excited to see where that goes.
I'm
Lunch,
now suddenly
dinner.
worried for him. I'm now suddenly very worried for Batali.
So those of you in chat, 1 like equals 1 prayer for Batali. So make sure on Twitter you like all of our prayers for Batali.
I don't think she did much on her her arc, which is finish a great work, which is her essentially her coin operated boy. It says
a lot of times it starts with the declaration of "I will build this work," and you just sort of explain in game, and you can say it at the end. The beginning of the arcs are almost like a free gimme, right? So you get started.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, it says the opening is assessing the past. You look at what has come before and where it still needs to go. This almost certainly involves some real research. So I guess she started that. She's working on it. So she has started her finishing of great work, and she now has an assistant to help her do this, which is real interesting. So he seems equally as intrigued in her kind of research, which is rare in her experience. So I feel like she's maybe come out of her tight little shell just a smidgen, like she's taken a peek through the shutters of her blinds of her adorable little house.
And so go ahead and get a point of acumen, which is a type of experience. You have acumen, joy, and despair. Joy and despair become crux, which you use to advance your forte as well as your order. Acumen's used to learn spells, secrets, forge new bonds, advance your house, etc. And the nice thing about the game is you essentially decide what things you want your character to do, which will acquire. The game will reward you for playing the game that you desire to play it. And last but not least, Reverend Neil.
Oh yes. Reverend Neil. He is still evaluating. He's very much he's a very personable kind of person. But he does sort of keep that sort of aloof sort of facade in the sense that he was very well aware of Robin and Lucy Girl being clearly uncomfortable around Lobelia, but he's not going to bring that up immediately. He's just sort of watching and analyzing and finding the best moment to perhaps bring that up with the two of them and possibly Lobelia herself if there should be other issues. As far as his character arc, he hasn't made an advance on that yet. His character arc is to build. Specifically for him, it is the restoration of this church building that he's taken over, because I think I described it in session 0 as being a church that had fallen to ruin, and that they had sort of cleared out the floor, and that's where they were having congregation, but they hadn't actually started rebuilding yet. And he is still looking for the right person to help him. He needs to find like an architect, basically. He needs to find someone that can help him blueprint it, plan it out, do it right. So he hasn't made any advances on that yet.
And with that, go ahead and do take a point of acumen for playing through the adventure and sort of Reverend Neil coming into existence and beginning their narrative. And then let's turn it over to Big Brother Greg. Let's start getting some outros. That's our session. Essentially, we play through an adventure. We talk about how our characters grow and change as players, and then we switch to development mode between now and the next session.
Fantastic. I had a blast. So much fun. Absolutely love. The session spoke to me. Anytime that you can narrative your way through something and it just gets better and better, and you play with a group like this that is just has creation oozing from them. It's just a joy, just a really nice way to spend a Friday evening. But let's go around and talk to everybody. Where can we find you online? And give Grant the praise. Let's see. Let's drop down to Charlie. Charlie, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I really love playing this game. This is an incredible crew. I can't wait to find out which of the rumors Lindy decided was true about Lobelia. Very curious about that one. Cannot wait for it to be Friday again. But in the meantime, I have a lot of really cool games coming up. I play all over the place, including Osgraticus' channel. And on Monday is my finale of my Call of Cthulhu game. That's meant a lot to me. It's my first time DMing a really big campaign, and I've had a blast. And I would appreciate anyone coming to check it out. It's at 1 p.m. EST. The rest of my schedule is posted in a pinned tweet on @FrostFromFire. And Grant, you're amazing. Thank you so much for guiding us through this. This is a huge system with so many parts to it, but I like how welcoming you've made it, and really encouraging the creativity, which is so important to me in the games that I play.
I appreciate that. Let's pass it over to Lindy.
Hi, I'm Lindy. Laugh, love, Lindy. This was super duper fun. I'm still getting the hang of it and fighting a bit of a headache. So I was like, just play it simple, play it cool. I'm really excited to get to know everyone's characters more and more, as I totally learned all about them in the Hall of Secrets. Just kidding, maybe. And saw Greg's face when Grant said what I got. The eyes narrowed. It's a beautiful moment. I'm really excited.
Listen, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. We play in a million games together. You basically just handed a tactical nuke to, I mean, Frankenstein. You just literally just said, "Here, play with this," and oh, she will.
It's gonna be great. I'm gonna find me a soul. I'm sure someone's got one up for grabs. But anyways, you can find me online at Laugh Love Lindy and all the social medias, Twitch, Twitters, etc. I'm in, as Greg said, a bunch of games with him and some other awesome people. So definitely check out Sunday night right here for Project Athena, because it's gonna be amazing. Tuesday night, you should check out my channel for Mists of Ravenloft. We're on episode 5 now, I think. They just finished their first module, the Created. It's the 2nd edition module. I bumped up to 5th edition, and we're going to be starting the next one at level 2 this week, and I'm super excited.
Fantastic. And finally, let's go over to Tommy. Tommy, how are you doing, buddy? And I loved the Reverend, man. I love I love the whole aspect of it. Was almost a Moses moment when the door opens and come along, children, come everyone. I love that. That was a great moment, man.
Yeah. I am thoroughly enjoying this, and I am thoroughly enjoying bringing the Reverend to life. I'm gonna keep dropping into. I'm gonna have to actively think about not dropping into a bit of a southern drawl there. I have to actively think about
a man are of no concern to me.
I mean, you haven't heard me go into my full eulogies, not eulogy.
Hopefully not a eulogy.
I think I just muted myself. I'm going to have to brush up on my church speak. It's been a while. But I can't wait to explore this character more. Glad you guys enjoyed him. God, I've been waiting to play this system for so long, and I'm so glad I get to play it with awesome people and with Grant, of course. I am Imperator Pengu on Twitter. I do Dungeons Dragons. I do tabletop RPG stuff in general, video game stuff. Follow me on my Twitter to find out about most of that. I am on the Greyhawk channel on Mondays. And that is, if you like horror, you like grimdark, that's a campaign and a half for that. I've got some stuff coming up in January, which I can't wait to announce. Follow me on Twitter for those announcements. I also produce and run a tabletop RPG podcast called the Tabletop Explorer Society. We are a learn by play podcast where we experiment and learn about all the different sort of systems that are out there beyond just your sort of standards of like D&D and Call of Cthulhu. We're learning them as we play, and we hopefully help other people learn them and discover systems that they might like as well. So yeah, check us out on Twitter at Tabletop Explore. We release every other Monday.
Fantastic, my friend. And everybody's link is in chat. And before I hand it over to the man, the myth, the legend, the Grant, I will simply say my name is Grimjack21502 on the Twitches and the Twitters. Join us here on the channel for all of your Cthulhu, D&D, and fun time needs. We do have Project Athena to Sunday night. We do have May Black Roses Bloom on Wednesday night, which is our 5e Dragonlance show. And starting this Thursday, the 13th, we will begin our delve into the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Really looking forward to that, running episode zeros that will be played throughout the pre-roll. So join us for all of that. And then I almost forgot, Sunday evening after Project Athena, we have a special Dragonlance episode of May Black Roses Bloom, a super pulpy Tomb of the Jackal Queen. I can't wait to see what DM Donathan Fry has for us then. But let me hand it over to my GM who made me care about a guy I didn't care about. Grant, how are you doing, my friend? Where can we find you online? And thank you, sir.
Hi, everyone. My name's Grant Ellis, and I'm 5 times Mr. Twitch, most handsome streamer on the Twitch. I'm just kidding. I'm an independent content creator for tabletop role-playing games, primarily Cypher System and Dungeons & Dragons. I'm a designer for 2C Gaming. I run 4 Invisible Sun campaigns online. You can find me all over the internet as either a producer for WebDM's Twitch channel and running a plethora of RPGs all over the world. If you see me at conventions, come up and say hi. I try to be as friendly as possible. And you can find me on Twitter at WisePapaGrant. I will be running 24 games of charity between the 15th and the 24th of this month. Those charity games will be hosted by WebDM Show. We will be supporting the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention as well as Trans Lifeline. And that's all I got.
My man. So absolutely, please check those out. Could there be a better cause? I don't think so. There could be ones that are just as good, but none better. As I always say, whenever we're ending a show, everyone's link is in chat. I put them there for this reason. I am currently surrounded by kind people. Add a little kindness to your life by following them on Twitter. A little bit of light goes a long way especially 2018. I have faith in 2019. We'll see how everything goes, but kindness will get you there. And as maybe not indicated by Invisible Sun, I will say this: you can't always roll nat 20s, but you can role play, and we'll see you next time.